We present My Music, a musical panel game devised by Edward J. Mason and Tony Schreier. And here to introduce the teams is Steve Race.
Thank you. We're back yet again. We being, apart from me, John Amos with his partner Frank Muir and Ian Wallace with his partner, for the purposes of the next half hour, Denis Norden. John, let us get started with a good, bold, strong theme. This is the key it's in. And this is the theme. What is it, John?
It was written by a lad whose father was a horn player.
Yes, it was, actually, now I come to think of it, yes.
And his father wrote a horn concerto too, and he was called Franz, and his son was called Richard.
Yes, and the second name?
Strauss.
Yes. And it was played on that recording, again, by a lad whose father was a horn player.
Ah, Denis Brain.
Denis Brain, yes. Mark, to you,
Brain.
Richard Strauss. So, which horn concerto did you say it was? Which number?
I didn't.
Oh.
But I will. It's number one.
Number one, yes. The first of two, Opus 11. Frank Muir, see if you can identify this popular singer.
Goodbye, Charlie. Hate to see you go. Goodbye, Charlie. Gee, I'm feeling low. But I'm doing you in. Someone's doing you in, pal.
Typical American cabaret artist, isn't it?
Yes, a real Las Vegas
glass
act.
figures,
Yeah,
and then on she comes.
Yeah.
Haven't the faintest idea.
Well, I can give you a clue. She may have been named after an English queen, possibly.
I can't think of anything. Victoria...
Try Vicky.
Vicky Carr.
Yes, well, why don't we give him half a mark, I think, for that. Vicky Carr, yes. The song was composed by someone you might not expect. Andre Previn.
Well, nobody's perfect.
Ian Wallace, a favourite overture. Not necessarily a favourite of yours, and certainly not a favourite of mine, but a favourite overture nonetheless. What is it?
But it is actually a favourite overture of mine.
Well, good.
The unfavourite thing is I can never pronounce its title. I always go sort of Semiramide.
You've got to commit yourself, haven't you?
No, or Semiramide is probably the easiest way. But it is a favourite because of a story attached to it during the war about this orchestra that hadn't got a bassoon player, and they used a harmonium instead of a bassoon. When the strings played, and the conductor looks at this chap who's playing the harmonium, who's, doing his pedals up and down, and instead of that beautiful bom, bom coming out, all that comes out is...
It's a real anybody who's ever played a harmonium knows that noise. It's lovely.
I once saw Semiramide at La Scala Milan. Joan Sutherland was in the main part. And it went on and on. The intervals got longer and longer. And it finally finished about 1:25. And the friend I was with said, well, gosh, if that was a semi-remedy, how long would have a whole remedy?
Dennis, the piece you're going to hear by Beethoven was called Leonora No. 3, which is a rather curious title, is it not? Why did he call it that, I wonder? Leonora No. 3. Dennis.
Well, before I got the right answer, I had sort of, I think the American word is intuited. The sort of creative process that having finished, it was obviously written for this girl, Leonora, and he got in touch with her and said, I've got this great number, we finished it, and can I come round and play it? And she said, well, not tonight, because I'm washing my hair. So he said, well, look, I'll take it round, I'll give it to the porter in your apartment block, and he can take it up to you. So he said, all right. He said, what's the number of your flat again? So he told her. So he wrote that on the top of the pen. And, of course, ever since, and delivered it to the porter, ever since, people have thought it was something to do with the tune. Of course, it was the flat number.
Of course it was.
Ian was
never mind,
both
never mind,
yes,
never mind, yes. Beethoven's third attempt at an overture of that name, actually, a rescoring of Leonora number 2. Talking of great symphonists, as we were, Beethoven, we move on to round 2. John, still on the subject of symphonic music, we talk about the unfinished symphony, as if Schubert were the only man to leave a symphony incomplete. John Amos, who else has left an unfinished? Oh, did you? An unfinished symphony?
Yes, a symphony in D flat minor. Very rare key.
Difficult.
But you want somebody more famous?
Well, yes, please.
Well, there's Borodin.
Yes.
And there's Schubert, and there's Mahler.
Yes,
Will I do?
The Mahler one was finished interestingly, wasn't it, by
the late lamented Derek Cook.
Yes, a very fine job. Thank you. Yes, that's right. You get your mark. Frank, this is a slightly technical question. Where would you...
Feel no pain.
Feel no pain, right. I'll ask you then straight out. Where would you find fixed dough?
Well, if you're making a sort of flat pastry like scones, you pound the stuff up and put the yeast in, and then you have to take it round to a vet who puts it in the fridge and kills the yeast.
Yes.
And that's called fixed dough.
It is, isn't it? Yes. You'd also find it in the tonic sulfur system, John.
Oh, very likely, I
yes.
think.
Or you'd also find it in a piece by Percy Grainger called The Immovable Dough.
Immovable Dough, yes, in which there's a note that just goes right through, doesn't it? The whole thing is there's a pedal note, really, yeah. Why not? A mark. Ian, history, musical history. What did Napoleon open in September 1973?
I should think probably a Christmas card that had got stuck in a cupboard in the sorting office in St. Helena. Or maybe a boutique.
Yes, a boutique would be nice. Actually,
Gear for the bony.
It was a building, a building that I know that John has visited. Do you happen to know what it was? It's a slightly obscure question.
Oh, good.
Napoleon being a character in an opera by Prokofiev, which opened a certain building in September 1973.
Oh, the Sydney Opera House.
Yes, that's right. I helped you a bit, but it's a difficult question. Why don't we give you a mark? Yes, the Sydney Opera House, Prokofiev's War and Peace, Napoleon being a character.
Can you bear in mind the silhouette of the Sydney Opera House? Because among Sydney cab drivers, it's known as the Nun's Scrum.
Charming, yes. Nice. Yeah. Actually, the building opened was the Opera Theatre of the Sydney Opera House. Dennis, popular music history. 3 songs. What have they in common? Chansonnette, Looking for Another Sweetie, and Smile and Show Your Dimple.
2 of them, Michael. Chansonnette was retitled The Donkey's Serenade, yes, or had a lyric added called The Donkey's Serenade. Smile and Show Your Dimple was the original lyric for In Your Easter Bonnet.
Smile and Show Your Dimple. It's really very simple.
Don't know the other one.
Well, Looking for Another Sweetie was the song that began. I'll play it for you.
I'm confessing that I love you, really?
Confessing,
I didn't know that one.
For Another Sweetie, yes. You got the answer, though, that they had the same thing in common. They changed their lyrics as the years went by, so to speak. It's medley time, so pens, ink and paper, please, as you try to name the 6 tunes in your team's medley. Of course, if you want to try listening at home and getting the answers, please do. Medley 1, number 1, then, for John and Frank. And how did you get on?
Holding his paper.
Brain-racking face there, yes. The first one, somebody.
Buttons and bows.
Yes, that's right. It's buttons and bows.
Just like the ivy.
Yes.
In the mood.
Oh, look at this. Listen to this. Yes, go on.
It quivers a bit now.
Yeah.
Just keep...
How
Along... No, no more big bit of sweet song. Get up, get out of bed.
We'd have to bring back the penalty for singing, I think. You don't know. It's when the red robin comes
the very chap.
bobbing along. The very chap. That's right. The very furry feathered fellow. Yes. Two more.
I don't know who's who. Married to a fellow 6 foot 4. 4 foot 2.
Everything except the first line. It's a
great big shame.
It's a great big shame.
It's a great big shame.
And the last one.
I didn't hear that.
Da-da-dee-da-da-dee-dee-dee, when you come back again. We don't want to lose you, but we think...
Alone, I did it.
Did you get that?
No, I didn't get any of them.
Oh, yeah. Well, alone you didn't do it then. 4 out of 6. 4 out of 6.
My dart doesn't even fly.
And now,
loaded.
A medley now for Ian and Dennis. For you, and Ian, did you get the first one?
Yeah. E Luce van le Stelle from Tosca.
Thank you, yes. Then perhaps Dennis, the next one.
My Funny Valentine from Frank Sinatra.
Yes. And?
Oh, Johnny.
Oh, Johnny, yes. Then 3 more.
I came from Dixie.
Yes, Dixie, that's right.
Then you're on your own, Dennis.
You beautiful doll.
Yes, oh, you beautiful doll, that's right. And finally, Ian, perhaps?
No.
I thought it was Your Eyes Are the Eyes of a Woman in Love.
No, it's the... I played...
Yeah.
It's the one that begins... You know it, John? Do you? Arthur Benjamin did the arrangement. Linstead Market. Carry me, Akigo, Linstead Market, not a quart. You would sell 5 out of 6. Fair enough. On to the next round, and the answer in this next round lies in the words of a song. 2 marks for the correct answer, but there's a 1-mark penalty for singing instead of saying the answer. So, John Amos, a verbal answer, please. I'm at the kitchen door. Who am I waiting for?
Katie.
Yes. Katie. Yes. 2 marks to you because you didn't sing it. Frank, why am I off to Louisiana?
To see my Susie Anna.
Indeed, I am. 2 to you. It's easy 2 marks this round, isn't it? Ian, where was the Bechstein Grand before it was pawned?
Oh, yes, along with the Van Dykes in the stately homes of England.
Yes, Noel Card's song. And Dennis, how much does a hot cross bun cost?
1 a penny, 2 a penny.
1 a penny, 2 a penny. Hot cross buns, yes. 2 marks to you.
An evasive answer, I think.
Talking of children's songs, I've been looking forward to telling you that last Christmas my little nephew, Danny, was heard singing half to himself, "Half the Herald Angels." In these days of inflation, rather than... Some slight musical curiosities coming up. John, this, as you'll be able to tell from its surface, is an old record I found, an old 78. What's it all about? Can you explain what we hear? Listen.
John. Well, you know, I've got a more up-to-date record than that. Without the hiss. A record company brought out 2 LPs of tenor arias, one of lyric arias and one of dramatic arias. And that was one of them, ones I used to have a bash at sometimes. I put the record on. The only trouble is when you come to the cadenzas, because the conductor on the record never gives you enough time, and you're just and he comes in dun, bum, bum.
The aria being Costa Quella. Yes, that's right. It was a very, very early example of the accompaniment record by the Berlin State Opera Orchestra with the tenor part missing, as you say, Mark Tune.
There used to be whole chamber music works called Adder part.
Yes, well,
you could play Mozart quintets or Dvorak piano quintets. All kinds.
Say no more, or you might spoil the whole of the rest of the round.
If you had no friends.
Frank, there's nothing strictly missing here, or rather this is how the arranger intended it to sound, but you may well feel as I do that there's something missing. Yes, Frank, it's...
La 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 la. Yes. They have a much easier time of it down in the pit.
Well, no, it's a very curious thing. It's Shchedrin, a Russian Soviet composer called Shchedrin, who did an arrangement of Carmen themes for a Bolshoi ballet, and that is how the theme actually appears in the full orchestral version. We usually hear it, of course, more like this. And on to Ian Wallace. Ian, what is missing here? What's missing?
Oh, yes. There should be a sort of... what I could only describe as a tiddle-liddle-liddle-liddle-liddle-liddle-liddle-liddle going on.
Well, you couldn't only describe it. You could describe it as a trill as well.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, yes.
No, yeah. There's the violin soloist's E trill after the cadenza in the last movement of...
Beethoven's violin concerto.
Violin concerto, yes, that's right.
There's a rather nice story told me by Gareth Morris the other day when he was in the aria of Symphony Orchestra. They had a wing commander who rather liked conducting what he called symphony music. And one day they got the parts of the Beethoven violin concerto, and they started off with the famous chimp solo, dum, 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 dee, da. He stopped and said, "Hey, what's going on? What's that thing at the beginning?" He said, "Well, I've got these 4 beats on the drum." He said, "Oh, we don't need anybody to give us the rhythm. Start, cut."
Gross calumny.
It's actually true.
Well,
because when Gareth, who's a famous flute player, was doing the Polonaise from the B minor suite of Bach, it's one of the old-style Polonaises, very slow dance, and the wing commander took it at a tremendous lick. And he said, "Well, why aren't you playing, flute boy? Why aren't you playing?" He said, "Well, I'm sorry, sir, I can't play it as fast as that." He said, "Rubbish. Polonaise, dum-da-dum, da-da-da-dum, da-dum sort of thing. What?" He was a famous wing commander, a marvellous man, but he did make a few boo-boos.
From a great musical family, too, of course. Dennis, yours is rather different, not this accompaniment business.
Good.
It isn't just an accompaniment. It is in fact a full vocal performance. The question to you is simply, who is the singer?
This is love, but a good big weekend, and our weekends are not a success. When she asks you so often, you finally soften and end by answering yes.
Do you know?
Well, I only know because I have had an occasion on kind of nostalgia program to make use of this record.
Yes.
It's the composer singing. Actually, it's Cole Porter singing "Thank You So Much, Mrs. Loughborough Goodby," which he never wrote for publication. That and Miss Otis Regrets were only things that he did at parties. They weren't done for shows. And he was persuaded to publish them later.
Interesting,
Yeah,
yeah.
no.
On the label of that old record, it says, in the fashion of old records, Cole Porter, baritone with piano. Was Cole Porter actually singing, as you said? And we come to our singing round, the party piece. John, after the film Barry Lyndon came out, you once said to me what a lovely Schubert melody it was that they used throughout that film, the one with the memorable opus number. You remember the opus number?
Yes. Oh, opus number.
Yes, opus number.
100.
Yes, 100, give or take. Give or take 100, yes, 100. I'll play a bit. Remind us how it goes.
All right.
Very sweet, wasn't it?
What was so remarkable about that was that the film was actually cut to the music in several places, particularly when they were doing that Schubert trio. It was quite remarkable and very unusual, wouldn't you say, Dennis?
Yeah, a lot of people remarked on it, yeah.
Frank, as Schubert was heard to remark after he'd composed that lovely tune, up with the sail of it, down with the pail of it, he was referring to beer, glorious beer. Can you oblige us with that?
Let's have a bit of accompaniment.
Oh, right.
Do you reckon, sir? What Keith, a beer, a glorious beer. Fill yourself right up to here. Drink a good deal of it, make a good meal of it, stick to your old-fashioned beer. Don't be afraid of it, drink till you're made of it. Now all together, a cheer, hooray. Up with the sail of it, down with the pail of it. Glorious, glorious beer.
Dennis, there are quite a few songs about home, sweet home, in addition to the one that's called Home, Sweet Home. Give us one that begins any place. Any place.
Well, any place. I don't know one that begins any place, but I know one that ends any place.
Well, yes, I meant the title, really, yes.
It's called Any Place Where I'm... Yes, Any Place I Hang My Hat Is Home, which I'm not very good on. I'm also even worse on a song called Any Place Where I Make Money Is Home Sweet Home to Me. I know the middle bit of that. It's about this commercial traveller who's at home at all the places. I've lived in towns where the lights are bright and they never think it's late, and in burgs where they roll up the sidewalks every night at 8:30. There are many things you can overlook as long as you fatten up your order book, because any place that I make money is home sweet home to me. That was absolutely in tune and on key. Did you notice?
Which key? I wasn't able to say.
No, it was, yeah.
Yeah, a sort of...
I don't know where you dig these songs out. Have you got a spiritualist you go to?
A very elderly, mean spiritualist who sets your questions. Ian, I'll give you a lead in on the piano, and I think we might perhaps have the audience in for a repeat chorus.
May you be forgiven. A garden for me,
If you're no a garden, you're no use to me. The black watcher braw, the seat person all, but the cocky wee Gordon's the pride of them all. A garden for me, a garden for me. If you know a garden, you're no use to me. The black watcher braw, the seat person all, but the cocky wee Gordon's the pride of them all.
Oh, no time. After that,
another round.
After that frankly nationalistic excursion, it only remains for me to tell you that this week we have a victory for Ian Wallace and Denis Norden. Goodbye.
Taking part in My Music were John Amos, Frank Muir, Ian Wallace and Denis Norden. The chairman was Steve Race. The questions were compiled by Steve Race and the programme was produced by Tony Schreier. We present My Music, a musical panel game devised by Edward J. Mason and Tony Schreier. And here to introduce the teams is Steve Race.
Thank you very much. Back again, My Music, with, as usual, John Amos and Frank Muir, competing in musical knowledge against Ian Wallace and Denis Norden. This time, just for once, I thought we might start off with some gently tuneful music, as opposed to boldly tuneful. So, John Amos, what is this title and composer, please? Lovely, isn't it?
The only work that I know is supposed to have been written under the influence of hypnotism.
You got it.
It's Rachmaninoff, Piano Concerto Number 2 in C for Charlie minor.
And which movement?
Oh, I should think the slow one in the
The slow one in the middle, yes, that's right. Second Rachmaninoff Piano Concerto. Catch there with the LSO and Schulte conducting. And you have a mark. Frank, this was a pop hit not so long ago. It sounds a bit similar to me. Who's the singer? It is familiar, isn't it? Singer, Frank?
John suggested it was me.
No, it's not as good as it's not as good as that, actually.
Thank you, yes.
Can I give you a hint, perhaps? Help you
Yes.
towards the name. Two names. You could give me his first name little by little.
Shorty.
Well,
Shorty Rogers.
let me try the other one. His sister may have worked in a tobacco factory.
Yes, that's, it's Tennyson's Maud. Remember, yes, you remember her family name was Woodbine. The Woodbine scents are wafted.
Well,
abroad.
little by little...
It's Shorty Woodbine.
Well,
I
I feel disposed to give you the mark for sheer effrontery. The name is actually Eric, little by little, Eric Carmen. The name of the chap.
No, I guessed that, but I didn't like to interrupt your flow of wit, Frank.
I was keeping the ball rolling.
Scored.
Ian,
Plunging.
Ian, as you know, that Rachmaninoff slow movement begins with a sequence of snaky piano notes, like this. Ian, something rather odd happened there. What tune did it become?
Oh, see how he says, as you know.
Yeah.
The slow movement begins with a succession of snaky chords. I think it was only last week he said, you will recognise this instantly, which I did. In fact, but I didn't know what it was. I recognised it. This. I was keeping the ball rolling.
Word is reaching you
came
from
across.
your mate.
No, starts there. That's
another message.
Yes, don't read my doodle. Bring back brown bread.
Till there was you.
Well, yes, you have to get the mark, don't you? From, Dennis?
The music.
The Music Man, yes. And it's your turn, Dennis. Back to unadulterated Rachmaninoff and a song by him. What would you call this? Time for Ian to write something down, I think.
Here's my pen here. Yeah.
No,
I don't know. You mean what would I call it?
What would you call that?
Intolerable. You know that kind of thing doesn't just sort of register with. You mean what was the name of the song?
Well, yes, it was very implicit in the accompaniment, if not in the song, in the singing.
Well, I would say it wasn't a lullaby.
That's right.
No.
That gets you a mark. It was The Storm by Rachmaninoff to words by Pushkin. And you get the mark, and so does everybody in that first round. And on to compositions of their titles. John, The Seasons became an oratorio, a ballet, a set of piano compositions, and even a set of violin concertos. Can you name the composers involved? The Seasons. Oratorio by...
Haydn?
Yes. Piano pieces...
Tchaikovsky?
Yes, later orchestrated. The ballet by...
Glazunov?
Yes. And the violin concertos...
Vivaldi.
Well done. 2 marks. Frank, what can you tell me about Sins of My Old Age?
You suffer from racial prejudice. Prejudice against this side of the house singing.
Oh, really?
During questions. Hello, hang on.
Oh,
it's Rossini piano piece song. What's that?
Piano pieces and song.
Of course. Oh, I see. Rossini piano pieces plus song.
Why Sins of My Old Age, then? Why old age?
Well, because he wasn't a young man.
That's right.
He was a pretty elderly Rossini.
Yes.
Pondering.
He'd eaten too much tornado by then, hadn't he? Yes, a set of late pieces by Rossini. He called them, humorously, Sins of My Old Age. Not too humorously, but fairly humorously.
No, Tornado was a comic opera, wasn't it?
By Puccini, yes. Ian, which of the operas by Berlioz is based on Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing?
Oh, goodness.
Or would you rather have a hint?
Well, I think
Would you rather be a fish?
Well, there's the Trojans. I don't think that was it. Well, that might... I mean, you might have said that was Much Ado About Nothing, really, those chaps inside that horse.
Them's fighting words.
Yeah.
Shall I give you a hint?
Oh, I'm not talking about the opera. I'm talking about the story.
Oh, good.
Oh, no, the opera. I'm a great admirer of the opera.
Right.
And saw it done by Scottish Opera.
Ah, well.
What's more, splendid it was. Now,
I'm the only one who can put down opera.
Then there was Benvenuto Cellini. I don't think that was about Much Ado.
I'll give you a hint.
Nothing.
B&B.
Beatrice and Benedict.
Yes, you got it straight off, didn't you? Straight away. 2 marks, ultimately.
It's nice to dilly-dally on the way.
Yes. Dennis, what can you tell me about The Perfect Fool?
Oh, I suppose this is another bit. The only example I came across recently was an American of A Perfect Fool. There was an American medical research chap who was working on a cure for nymphomania. It's an opera by, and then the operative is either Mollet.
Your writing is...
Is that? Oh, Holst.
Yes.
Holst, yeah.
Gustav Mollet.
Yeah.
Or Mollet, as he was known in France, yes. Opera by Gustav Holst, yes, your side gets the mark. Talking of opera, I had a letter from a listener in Blackburn in Lancashire, Joe Winstanley, his name, who saw 2 opera posters which had been put up rather carelessly. the sections didn't coincide, and the poster read, Madam Butt de Fladerfly. Charming, isn't it? One of our regular listeners, Anne Riley of London, South West 1, quite often has to drive to London Airport. She's noticed that on her car radio there always seems to be some really enjoyable piece of music the moment she drives into that tunnel which leads you into the airport, with the result, of course, that she loses reception for a few moments. But, of course, there are the ventilators, and reception comes back from time to time, so you get a sort of like that, you know. She's become expert at guessing what intermittent music really is, at identifying it, and wonders how you'd get on in similar circumstances. So we'll find out. We're going to reproduce the effect for you of driving through the airport tunnel with ventilators offering sound from time to time. Listen very carefully. John, entering the London airport tunnel, you hear this on your car radio. What is it?
It's a bit high for me.
But not for him.
But he is singing sangue, so that's why it sounds so bloody.
Yes. Do you know what it's called? He sang the time.
Othello.
It comes from Othello, yes. Verdi's Othello, yes. Verdi's Othello. Did you recognise the voice by any chance?
Not you, is it?
Well, I'll give you a hint. His first name was Bussy.
What?
Jussy was his first name.
Oh, Jussy. Well, then he's Burling.
Juicy Lucy.
Anyway, you got it. It's an aria from Verdi's Othello. You get the mark. Frank, here's your tunnel piece.
Thank you.
You may just get it, I think.
Is it with a
yes.
tucked underneath the arm?
Yes.
What the bloody tower?
That's right. It was Stanley Holloway's record, actually. You got it. Ian, an airport tunnel teaser for you. Yes, you've got it. Complete with head notes, yes. Who's singing what, please?
Yep. It's Girls Were Made to Love and Kiss, yes. Undoubtedly sung by that wonderful artist, Richard Tauber.
Tauber, yes, your mark. Dennis, in your case, there are only 2 tunnel ventilators that restore reception on your car radio, isn't it? Courageous!
It's about Dancing Bear.
Yes, whose record?
That was Alan Price.
Alan Price, and the correct title, who?
Was Simon, His Amazing Dancing Bear. Simon Smith and His Amazing Dancing Bear. Actually, I find that with tunnels, actually, on those records, you now go through that London airport tunnel fast. I've never been through it that quickly. But anybody who's got a car radio, it's always the most interesting things that you miss when you go under tunnel. I have this fantasy of driving along one day, and voice of somebody say, "We've just received news that the sun is approaching the Earth at the rate of 12 million miles an hour, and it's estimated the whole human race will die out in..." And now we have a piece of music for it.
We had that same sort of thing actually a few years ago at home when a police van came round at 4 a.m. and said, "Attention everybody, a wild one has escaped from the zoo at Great Foster's." And we were like, "What? Elephant? Crocodile?" And it was a tiny little monkey about 3 feet.
That's like the old joke of the man who rushed up to the keeper at the zoo and said, "There's a moose loose." And the keeper, who was a very phlegmatic man, said, "Are you Scots or English?"
I think we'll move on to some musical questions concerning who or what. John, who composed a Turandot overture based on a Chinese tune that he found in a musical dictionary?
Ferruccio Busoni.
No.
Ah, then Carl Maria von Weber.
Yes, because he found it in Rousseau's dictionary.
Ah.
Second shot. Should we give him a mark or half a mark?
Mark, yeah.
Mark, all right. Charitable to the last, that's my audience. Right. Frank, who were reunited in Utopia to a limited degree?
Sir Thomas More and his wife.
Well,
you remember Henry VIII tried to lure her away, saying, "Don't have any more, Mrs. More," and she went back to him, even though in his time of...
Sir Thomas More did invent Utopia, didn't he?
It was also Gilbert and Sullivan Opera.
I said reunited in Utopia to a limited...
Oh, that's right. They had a punch-up over the carpet in the Savoy Theatre, and yes, Gilbert and Dolly Card.
Anyway, the answer was Gilbert and Sullivan were reunited in 1893. Ian, this man probably wrote more music in sheer quantity than any other noted composer in history. Handel said of him that he could write an 8-part motet with the ease that someone else might write a letter. He was born before Bach and Handel. He outlived them both. Who was he?
Before? No. I think this must be the man centuries before his time, because it's now what we all are. He was Teleman.
Teleman, who it was, that's right. Yes.
Hey, Mr. Teleman, write me sonata. Daylight he come and I've written for...
Yes, in fact, an example of Teleman's music might be nice at this point. Very nice. Dennis, Rafe Vaughan Williams composed a number of film scores, among them a score for a film that America called The Invaders. What did we call it?
The Invaders.
Yes. That was the American title.
I was a teenage Martian. Virgins from Venus. What's coming? Oh, of course, yes. Well done, Ian, yes. Ian came up with 49th parallel in which he's got 5 L's.
I got 2 R's at one time.
49th Parallel was indeed the name of the film as we knew it. It included a splendid theme, I think. Listen to this, just a bar or two. And Vaughan Williams did actually turn that into a choral piece called The New Commonwealth. As far as I'm aware, it was never recorded, and I haven't been able to trace a record of it at all.
That was the film where all boys of my generation fell in love with Glynis Johns.
Yes, that's right. Yes,
didn't Laurence Olivier, didn't he play,
yes.
Didn't he have a marvellous French-Canadian accent?
Yes,
that's right.
Yes. It was really Eric Portman's film, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. The answer in this next round lies in the words of some popular or traditional song. If you say the answer, 2 marks. If you sing the answer by mistake, you get only 1 mark. John, who found a use for topless herring boxes, and what use were they to her?
Oh, my darling.
Topless?
Herring boxes.
Oh, my darling, you can do this.
Oh, madame.
Yes.
Lady.
He sang, folks.
Yeah.
The man sang.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I sometimes get a bit Welsh and I start, oh, my darling, and I don't really mean to sing.
Well, 1 mark. Clementine it was. What did she use her herring boxes for? Herring boxes without topses. Thank you, Frank. Sandals were for Clementine, yes. Well, only 1 out of 2 there. Frank, how capacious is the home I plan to build in Loveland?
It's enough to house 2 or 3 or 4.
Or more.
Or more.
That's right. You get the marks. Ian, how long is the racetrack at Camptown, and which horse are you backing there?
The racetrack at Camptown is 5 miles long.
And what
What
are you betting your money
somebody bet on the... I put my money on the bobtailed nag, and somebody bet on the bay.
You sound like George Sanders. That's right. Yes, you get the marks. Dennis, what will you find you're in following the Easter Day parade?
Well, depending whether you sing the English version or the American version.
That's right. I have them both down here.
Oh, well, you'll either be seen in a smart magazine, or you'll find that you're in the photogravure.
Rotogravure, I think.
Rotogravure,
yes.
Rotogravure.
Yeah, that's right. And we go on to the next round, back to John again. John, I'm going to play on the piano a few bars of a familiar song. While I'm playing it, just a bar or two, can you recall who wrote the original poem? You know the music, of course, by Grieg.
The song is a Grieg, yes, the first kiss. So it is not a Norwegian writer, is it?
No.
No, then it's not Ole Bull or anybody
but
like that.
It's not a Norwegian accent either, is it?
I was hoping after all those hearings it might sound vaguely Norwegian.
I can give you a good hint which will help Frank, if not you. This particular person was at one time a somewhat unwelcome guest in the home of Charles Dickens. Didn't help you much, did it? I shall have to tell you, the words of the original song of Ich liebe dich were by Hans Andersen. Hans Andersen.
What do you know?
And he was not Norwegian, was he? No. Frank, Danny Kaye made a film about Hans Andersen.
There's continuity. As we see.
And so on. Who wrote the music for that film, Lester? Frank, I mean.
Sorry about that. Not a greater man. Frank Lesser.
Frank Lesser. How did you arrive at that?
I would have come to it eventually.
You would. All right, then. All right, give you the mark. Yes.
With hints.
Ian, talking of fairy tale characters, this is a little bit of, I think, interesting information. The first English composer ever to be knighted wrote an opera called Aladdin. It was intended, and it was written, in fact, as a counter-attraction to Weber's Oberon. But it was a failure. In fact, the audience ruined the performance because during his hunting chorus, they whistled very loudly the hunting chorus from the rival opera by Weber. This same man also composed Lo Hear the Gentle Lark. Who was he? The first musical knight.
Ah, yes, that's very helpful. Thank you, John.
That was a sign.
You were saying about them whistling the Oberon.
Yeah.
There's a lovely story told years ago at Covent Garden of the Italian waiter in Soho who managed to get a ticket quite unexpectedly for Covent Garden, and he got in there and found that he copped something like Meistersinger. And he listened to this for a bit and waited until finally a rather soft bit came in the music, and he stood up in his seat and he said, "I wanted the Rigoletto!" Which was much more understandable than these people doing this. No, the gentleman in question, with a marvellous hint from John, is Sir Henry Bishop.
Yes, the way he was crossing himself, I thought you were going to say Pope. Yes, it was Bishop, Sir Henry Bishop. That's right. Dennis, there's a fairy tale character in this song title.
Yes, stay in my arms, Cinderella.
That's a nice, quick, easy mark for you. Yes, you got that. It's time to hear our four contestants actually singing instead of talking. John, start us off with the handsome Earl of Murray.
Ye lands and ye lowlands, oh, where hae ye been? They ha slain the Earl of Murray and laid him on the green. He was a braw gallant and he rode at the ring. Oh, the bonny Earl of Murray, he might have been a king. Oh, long will his lady look frae the castle doon, ere the bonny Earl of Murray comes sounding through the tune.
Real Norwegian folk song.
You'll get some letters, Frank. From you, Frank, please, the song of the grasshopper as he sang by the railroad track. Did you manage that?
A grasshopper sat on a railroad track singing Polly Wolly Doodle all the day. His name was John, but they called him Jack, singing Polly Wolly Doodle all the day. Very well, very well, very well, very well, very well, my fairy friends. For off to Louisiana just to see my Susiana, singing Polly Wolly Doodle all the day.
It got kind of tragic towards the end, didn't it? Really?
I can't sing fast. I can't sing slow, but I can sing even less fast.
Yes. Dennis, the rare flower of Washington Square. Would you like an accompaniment?
Oh, go on. Talk about one of your old familiar tunes from way back when. Row, they call her. Row of Washington Square. A flower so fair should... Oh, is that how it goes? Should blossom where the sun shines rose. For nature did not mean that you should blush unseen, but be a queen of some fair garden. It's getting a bit tragic, this one as well. Yeah.
Let's go. Packed up, have you?
I know.
Finished, all right. Ian, be a hero in your wooing, always kissing, always cooing. Mozartian advice. Can you play?
Yes, I know what that is. I sing slightly different words, but you won't mind that.
You may think you've found a woman who'll be faithful all your life. You may smother her with kisses, nuptial joys and wedded bliss. Sure that she's the perfect wife. Sure that she's the perfect wife. Perfect wife. Tra-la-la-la-la, 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 tra-la-la-la-la.
End of programme, I'm afraid. A victory this week would be, wouldn't it, for Ian Wallace and Denis Norden. Goodbye.
Taking part in My Music were John Amos, Frank Muir, Ian Wallace and Denis Norden. The chairman was Steve Race. The questions were compiled by Steve Race and the programme was produced by Tony Schreier. We present My Music. A musical panel game devised by Edward J. Mason and Tony Schreier. And here to introduce the teams is Steve Race.
Thank you very much. Hello and welcome to the Commonwealth Institute and to My Music, a panel game of sorts, a competition between teams of two, John Amos and Frank Muir versus Ian Wallace and Denis Norden. So, first question goes to John Amos. John, here's some beefy music. Title and composer, John.
It's from Pulcinella, ballet by Pergolesi, mucked about a bit by Stravinsky.
Yes, that was very much the Stravinsky version there, wasn't it?
I was just going to say that. I sort of...
Were you?
That phrase, da-da-dee, where the blue of the night meets the gold of the day, da-da-dum,
What's that newsreel? Da-da-da.
Oh, yes, that's right. Frank, your turn. Here's an instrument you'll be familiar with, more so perhaps in the next life than in this.
Wait for it.
Charmant.
I know. 2 marks. It's a harp.
Well, no, that isn't the question, actually. The question is, Frank, you've often seen the harp played.
Many times.
Which shoulder does it rest on, and which hand plays the top or treble part? You may have help from your mate there.
Now, Harpo Marx got it wrong, didn't he?
That's right, yes.
Because he saw an illustration of it in a mirror or something, on the long shoulder. Now, hang on. You've got the pedals, one for dampening the strings and the other for dipping the headlights. It doesn't go in the middle of the nose, like a bowstring, does it?
It does if you're on a boat.
Hang on. The left hand...
Your friend is trying to tell you, he's desperately trying to help you over there.
No, the left hand does the twiddly bits.
All right.
Which shoulder is it on to start with, normally?
It's not on the shoulder, it's on the ground. You couldn't...
Right or left shoulder, please?
You reckon it's the right?
I think so.
Have a guess.
Well, 50% of this side of the team thinks it's on the right shoulder.
You're likely to be 50%.
No, on the left shoulder. You play the top with the right hand.
I'm going to call a halt.
The left shoulder.
You're right first time. It rests on the right shoulder.
Oh, you fool.
And
you're a psychologist.
Well, there you are. You look through the strings, and you see your hands. Which hand is playing the treble part, the right hand or the left?
It's the side your face is on. It's the hand where your face is.
I wish I'd never started this.
It's ting, 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 ting.
Why don't we give him 3 out of 2? I think you mean to be right.
Yes,
right. Yes, the right hand. Right shoulder, right hand is the answer to my question. Ian, please change of subject. What has this music to do with a cheesemonger named Lightgabe?
Well, one morning in Salzburg, Mozart was sitting writing a horn concerto, and he had got to the last movement. He was just beginning the last movement when a cheesemonger called Lightgeb, did you say his name?
Lightgeb, yes.
Arrived, and he said, Herr Mozart, I have been bringing cheeses to this house every week. For a long time, you don't pay me any money. Nothing at all. And I don't know what to do. Maybe when you finish what you are writing now, you give it to me in payment for all these Gruyères and the bel paese I import from Italy. And Mozart just looked at him and says, what has this music to do with a cheesemonger like you? So the answer is nothing.
I'm only going to give you 1 mark out of 2 because...
I got 1 mark.
Well, yes, 1 out of 2, 1 for ingenuity. But Mozart wrote the concertos for a cheesemonger who played the horn. His name was Lightgabe, and he's very good too. He wrote the concertos for him. That was, in case anybody wants to know, from the horn concerto, the 4th horn concerto. Dennis, your question. Why should this recording make me think of American... There are 2 reasons. Make me think of American transportation.
Boop, bop, boop, bop. Boop, bop, boop, bop. Boop, bop, boop, bop.
I'm not going to attempt to plumb the way your mind works, because I don't know what makes you think of American transportation, but the name of the song is Tuxedo Junction, which I've always assumed to be a railway station. It may be a kind of flyover, I don't know, like...
It certainly sounds like one, so it would remind me...
And I think that's the modern, that's the updated one. It's that that lot who are living off the past, like quite a lot of us are today.
There's the second Transportation Association.
The Manhattan Transfer.
Manhattan Transfer, yes, which is also to do with transport.
Tuxedo Junction was where the bottom of the dinner jacket touched the top of the trousers. Which gives a different meaning to the expression flyover.
Thank you for that. And let's move on to the next round. The subject of this next round is Handel. John, which is the first chorus in Handel's Messiah? Work your way through quickly.
It's in A major.
Yes,
and it goes.
Shall I play you a bit of it?
Tum bum bum ba dum bum 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 be.
Yes, that's it. And it's
my boy.
And the glory of the Lord.
That's right. And the glory of the Lord gets you the mark. It's the first chorus in the song. Right. Frank, Handel and Bach had something in common with Pepys and Milton. What was it?
They were all lived in the 18th century except Pepys and Milton. They all worked in England at one time or other.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did. Who didn't?
Bach.
No, Bach didn't. No.
J.C. Bach.
And anyway...
Oh, well, if you're going to...
And anyway,
you're on my side, may I remind you.
And anyway, Pepys did live into the 18th century, just.
Do you think the 1685?
No, don't bother about dates.
Well, give us a hint. I'll trade you a quarter of a mark for it.
Well, the answer is interesting. Handel and Bach both suffered from the attentions of a certain itinerant gentleman, and they shared something in that sense with Pepys and Milton.
Milton was blind, and Pepys stopped writing his diary because of failing eyesight.
You got it. They all suffered from failing sight.
Oh, yes.
They all suffered from failing sight.
Ooh.
Pepys didn't go blind, did he? Thought he was going to. No, they all suffered from failing sight. And the terrible thing, as John will confirm, is that some itinerant eye surgeon wandering around over Europe managed practically to blind both Handel and Bach. Quite something to say when you get up to the pearly gates, isn't it?
But mind you, when you realise how much they wrote and the kind of light they wrote by, it's not surprising.
No, indeed. Ian, which is the only duet in Messiah?
Oh, I won't waste your time on that one. It's Death, Where Is Thy Sting?
Alto for alto and tenor. Dennis, back to you. What can you tell me about Love in Bath? Nobody can say they can try, can they?
The water keeps growing cold. That's the only thing I get. I can't tell you anything. I presume it's something by hand. What it could be is a one-night gig in Somerset by Jeff Love in his orchestra. But on the hand, Beecham arranged the whole session. Beecham. It's either Beecham arranged it or Beecham annoyed it.
He snatched the paper out of my hand before I could write.
I'm sorry.
I think it was. Yeah. A ballet.
It's a good commercial for the pen at the same time.
Yes, a ballet suite by music by Handel, arranged by Sir Thomas Beecham. Yeah. Charming. It began. I'll play. Very charming music. Lovely suite.
Once heard him conduct this at the Edinburgh Festival many years ago, of course, and sitting in the choir stalls, so that we were sort of very near to him. And I never realised that Sir Thomas, when he was conducting, made such loud noises to the orchestra as he was going. He beat the bar. It was marvellous.
Proper little Oscar Peterson he was, actually. Just beside my right hand is this grand pianoforte equipped with the usual number of black and white teeth, on which I propose now to play a medley. This is where the two teams work as pairs, noting down on their pens, ink and paper the titles of the 6 tunes I'm about to play. And Frank wants a bit of help. It's up to me to see he doesn't get it. A medley then, first of all, for John and Frank. Ended up better than it began. Right, John. John and Frank, did you get the 16th? Title first.
Jock Scotland.
Jock Scotland.
Is it the Maple Leaf?
No, it wasn't. It was more entertaining than that.
I've got a premonition that I don't know what it's called.
The Entertainer, thank you. Right, give you that little hint. Then came a march.
Blaze Away.
Yes, you got it. Then another march.
Sousa.
I can't read my writing.
Yes, by Sousa, but which one?
It's
Quick guess.
number 5.
I'm not going for that. It was the Washington Post.
Oh, yes, it's too late for the Washington Post.
The man who broke the bank at Monte Carlo.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Take me back to dear old Blighty.
Yes, and?
Stately Holmes.
Oh, 5 out of 6. Great stuff. Yes. The way to do it, very nearly. And a second medley for Ian and Dennis this time. Quick dash, as we call it in the trade. Right, through 6 tunes, right. Did you get the titles?
Yes, I think you've done one, you've done one of these double bluffs here. That was Washington Post.
Yes, Washington Post. A different bit of it.
Yes, that was before the bit that goes Queen of All the Fairies. You know.
Then a memory of Flotsam and Jetsam.
Yes, Changing of the Guard, was it?
Yes, you shall see the changing of the guard. Do that again, that was lovely.
You wonder how he gets them.
And then came...
Little Dolly Daydream.
Not Little Betty Bouncer, no. Little Dolly Daydream, that's right.
Yeah.
3 more.
Semper Fidelis.
Oh, yes.
I was very lucky last year when they had we did a concert on the 4th of July with the Guards band playing all these marches.
Oh, you've got them down this time then, yes. 2 more.
Jumping.
Yes, Jumping Bean, I thought.
Yeah. I don't know the last one.
It's... Hey, Look Me Over.
Yeah. That's it.
Hey, Look Me
Yeah.
Over.
Do that again.
6 out of 6. Let's move on to some memorable voices of the past. How memorable we shall now find out. John, this recording was made in 1932. Can you name the singer?
It sounds like Elizabeth Schumann to me.
Absolutely right for a mark, yes.
She's a sweet lady, yes. And she once came to a summer school I had something to do with, and she was giving a lesson to a very young-looking girl, and this girl was singing a love song. And she said, "Ach, my dear, I must stop you. I think you don't understand the words." And the girl said, "Well, actually, Madam Schumann, I am German. I am a refugee." She said, but it is a love song. Perhaps you have never been in love, my dear." And she said, "Madam Schumann, I may look very young, but I've got 3 children." "Ach, my dear," she said, "just sing. I say no more."
What a nice lady. Yes. It was she, Elizabeth Schumann, recorded there at the age of almost 50, so pretty good. Frank, this lady was born in 1915. She had a sudden success just after the Second World War.
Oh, he's got a fine brown frame. I wonder what could be his name. He looks good to me, and all I can see is his fine brown frame.
You know, of course.
Yes.
Her first big hit was Hurry On Down, and then came that.
Nellie...
Yes.
Lutcher. Nellie
You've got it between. Nellie Lutcher is right, yes. That deserves a round of applause. Ian, back to opera. This lady lived from 1861 to 1931, and the recording was made, rather distantly as you'll hear, in 1905. Sounds like Chloe lost in the swampland, doesn't it?
I think that was the lady, John was talking about the things that Elizabeth Schumann said. I think that was the lady who sent a message to the senior chef at the Savoy and said, what do you mess up a perfectly good peach with ice cream and Melba sauce?
That's right. That was the lady, Dame Nellie.
Nellie.
Dame Nellie Melba it was, singing some Gounod. Yeah. Dennis, there were various versions of the atmospheric song Ebb Tide. This, I think, was my favourite. Lovely record, isn't it?
He had kind of boiled egg eyes, didn't he?
Yes.
Bulge out with his great moustache. Jerry Colonna.
Jerry Colonna. He's a musician originally. He even made some records that are still collected by jazz people, I think. Yeah. He made a record called Hey Barmaid. Do you remember that?
No.
Lovely. It consisted of a little jingly musical phrase, and in between every phrase he said, hey, barmaid, rather the way you would, the way you're trying to attract the attention.
Yeah.
And he eventually gets more and more furious and tries different wiles. He says, hey, barmaid. And he says, hey, barmaid. And finally, of course, hey, barmaid. Lovely record. Let's move on to the final round, which is what we call the party piece. A drop of singing, or in John's and Ian's cases, more than a drop, a full tot, you might say. John, you first. Charles Stewart landed on South Uist in the Outer Hebrides at a place called Eriskay. Can you oblige with a verse or so of that song? And shall I give you a chord of G? Which was about your range, I should.
Why not? I think, yes.
When I'm lonely, dear white heart, black the night or wild the sea, lie by love's light my footsteps, the pathway to thee. Ver mi oro vano, ver mi oro vani,
You know, the nicest version I know of that on a record is sung by the Polish Army Choir, who were formed in this country, or rather more, in Scotland. They were stationed during the war. And they sang this very, very beautifully. And a friend of mine was an airman, and he went to a concert in Aberdeenshire, and there were about 3,000 airmen in this stadium. And they did their Polish Army bit, and they did their Polish bit, and then they did two Scots songs, the Eriskay Love Lilt, and they were introduced by one of their singers, Marian Nowakowski, who was a lovely, big operatic bass. But his English was only very, very slightly better than the rest of his countrymen. And when they finished the Eriskay Love Lilt, he said, and now we sing another Scotch song, Stop Tickling Your Jock.
Frank, once again, it's...
Sounds like the Gay Gordons.
Press on. I did a performance of, many performances of La Bohème with Marian Nowakowski, beautiful singer. And it's a famous night when he and I were striking attitudes of grief on a chest of drawers at the back of this set, and Mimi was dying and she was singing away. sing Buongiorno Marcello, all this sort of thing, and he turned to me and he said to me, I've forgotten the chord song. So I said to him, because we were singing it in Italian, I said, Vecchia Zimara senti. He said, no. Not the words, the tune. And sure enough, I was trying to sing in the tune against the other music, but the beginning is all on one note, so I was going, He said, no, I knew that.
Oh dear. We better go on, I think.
Good luck.
Frank, once again, it's back in history. Oliver Cromwell inspired a song for Mary Lloyd. You pick a key and I'll try and find out which one it is. Right?
Drops the tone of the piece a bit, doesn't it? I'm up a bit. I'm
Try that.
Overdo, yes. I'm not too fast.
There.
I'm one of the ruins that Cromwell knocked about a bit. Oh, and that Oliver Cromwell knocked about a bit. In the grey old days, there used to be some doings. No wonder that the poor old Abbey's all in ruins. Folks who study history sing and shout of it. Well, you bet your life there isn't a doubt of it. Outside the Oliver Cromwell last Saturday night, I was one of the ruins that Cromwell knocked about a bit.
Dennis, your heyday came a bit after Cromwell's. In World War II, there was a super sentimental song called Shake Down the Stars. How can you manage to read that?
Yeah, no, Steve, don't play it, because this song's actually a collector's piece, not because of the tune, so it doesn't matter what I ruin of the tune this particular week. Shake Down the Stars was recorded by Sinatra, and it was recorded by Ella Fitzgerald. It was a kind of a mild hit in those days. But only a very small coterie of people noticed the lyric of the middle eight. The actual song goes, shake down the stars, tear down the moon, tear down the clouds, do it soon. You don't stay out of it, Steve, because I said it doesn't matter about the music. It really doesn't matter about the music. But that was the general theme of the song. And the middle bit went, and I hope I can remember this. I gave you my arms, my lips, my heart, my love, my life, my all. But the best that I had to offer you, I found was all too small. And nobody ever noticed it. If anybody's got the Glenn Miller Memorial album, it's on that as well, and you can check it.
Must give you the mark, I think, for that. Though you didn't sing it. Ian, round about the year you were born, there was a show in London called Good Morning, Dearie.
That's what my mother said to me when I was born.
From it came Look for the Silver Lining. Okay.
Look for the silver lining when at a cloud appears in the blue. Remember somewhere the sun is shining, and so the right thing to do is make it shine for you. A heart full of joy and gladness will banish sadness and strife. So try to look for the silver lining and try to find the sunny side of life.
Lovely way.
One banished too many.
Yeah, well, yes, but we ended together, didn't we?
Oh, yes.
I'm afraid that's all for this edition. According to the score, it's a victory for John Amis and Frank Muir. Goodbye.
Taking part in My Music were John Amis, Frank Muir, Ian Wallace and Denis Norden. The chairman was Steve Race. The questions were compiled by Steve Race and the programme was produced by Tony Schreier. We present My Music. A musical panel game devised by Edward J. Mason and Tony Schreier. And here to introduce the teams is Steve Race.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, and at the start of another edition of My Music, it's my pleasure to announce the names of those involved. John Amis, Frank Muir, Ian Wallace and Denis Norden. I thought we'd begin by getting in tune. John Amis, can you place this rather strange example of a string section tuning up? Now, John, that comes from very near the end of something quite serious and classical.
I know this, but I can't put a name to it. You'll have to give me a clue. So.
Well, I'll give you
No.
I'll give you a clue.
I know you haven't got a clue.
The recording was made, along with rather a lot of others, by an orchestra conducted by Anatol Dorati. That may help you.
It's some kind of a joke piece.
Well,
by Haydn.
Yeah, it's not got a jokey title at all.
No.
You've got the composer, because I almost gave it to you, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
This is how the music goes on after that tuning up. It goes on like this.
No.
Symphony.
And now I remember. I think it's called Il Distratto.
Yeah, it is. That's right. It's Symphony number 60 in C, and he's got 3/4 of a mark out of 1. We move on. Frank, to you, a popular vocal group. Who are they?
Bless you for being an angel, just when it seemed that heaven was not for me.
Beautiful pitching.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Perfect, isn't it?
Could only be.
Are they singing something that one wouldn't normally expect them to sing?
I don't think so with them, but I know what you mean, and I'll go along with the idea, yes.
In other words, it's a bit of a trick question.
No.
Oh.
I'm not falling for that. No.
A difficult answer.
Notice how good the countertenors were on the top. Notice how good Brian Kay was on the bottom part.
The king.
You really can't have much more out.
Les chanteurs du roi.
Du roi.
The
yes.
king's singers.
The king's singers. That's another 3/4 of a mark, I think, out of 1.
I always think that John Amis is a king's singer monkey.
Who do you think, sir? That's terribly nice of you to say so.
Ian, you noticed that somebody did a sneeze and then they sang "Bless You for Being an Angel." There's another familiar piece of music that begins with a sneeze, but in this case, because sneezing is supposed to denote that the story you are about to tell is true. What is it, Ian?
Oh. Of course, it could be that just you were suffering from hay fever and were a liar. I think you'll have to help me a bit on this.
Well, I'll help you. Well, no, but let me play him a familiar bit, and then you'll see if he can get 3/4 of a mark as well. Here's the familiar bit from it.
Perhaps he'd got one of those hairs up his nostril. Is it hairy?
Hairy Janos.
That's the
Harry Janos.
emperor and his court.
That's right,
I was
yes.
going to say, it was a composer I mentioned some time ago called Kay O'Daly.
Kay O'Daly, yes. Otherwise known as
Kodai.
Kodai, yes, that's right. Well, 3/4 of a mark. Dennis, for you, back to the King's Singers. Never a hardship to go back to them. This song was composed by a song historian.
I'll be around, no matter how you treat me now. I'll be around from now on.
Yes, that was the man who wrote the book called Popular Music in America, Alec Wilder.
Alec Wilder wrote the song.
He wrote quite a few compositions, but that was the only one that was really got anywhere.
The only one that really got him into his own book of standards, isn't it?
Well, I don't think he is, actually, because I remember looking up when I had to do something like the work of another composer, and just thinking, I wonder if he's got any of his own stuff, and he hasn't got I'll Be Around there.
Anyway, you've got a full mark there. That puts you very slightly ahead for the round. Let's move on. Here's a very popular musical sound full of character. Lovely stuff. That's the famous Black Dyke Mills Band, national champions on so many occasions. John, what are they playing here?
An arrangement.
Doran Tooten, yes, that's right.
It's New World Symphony.
Yes, by
Dvorak.
Yes. Frank, this is the same band. They're playing a march which was written in honour of someone. From the evidence of the music, in honour of what sort of person would you guess?
Well, it's fairly well known. No, it's in honour of Ulysses Phonium, who invented the tuba.
Better known under his initial.
Yeah, which is, and the tuba is a wonderful brass band instrument because it's much easier to learn. It's quicker by tuba than...
I'm going to cut in there.
What's your story?
My story is that it was named after an outstanding 19th century cornet soloist who became subsequently the band's conductor. His name's enshrined in the title. And the title of the piece, which I think is lovely, the title of the march is Viva Birkenshaw.
And you expected me to know that?
I expected you to improve on it, and you did.
But isn't that another Irish tune? It's a passo doble.
And it isn't actually a passo doble, is it? I'm just trying to stop getting nasty letters from listeners and viewers. But
yeah, I just wanted to get the gag in.
Yeah. Ian, your turn.
Thank you.
Here's Black Dyke again.
I've no idea what sort of a person that's about. But Dennis has. He suggests that it's Requiem on Ramsbottom.
Ian, I'm going to list all but one of the sections you heard there. You heard cornets, flugel, horns, baritones, trombones, basses, and percussion. Which instrumental section did I leave out?
Oh, dear.
You've worked with brass bands, haven't you?
I thought I could hear the curious tone of the cornet, flugelhorn, and baritone. Fiddle, cello, big bass drum, bassoon, flute. Euphonium!
Thank you! got it all written down here. I was going to give you a clue, a euphonious list, I was going to say. But Dennis, your turn. This is a piece called Hat Trick. Dennis, how many men made up that horn trio?
You like toying with my musical ignorance, don't you? Well, whatever I answer, I shall come out looking a right Birkinshaw. It's 3 men make up a trio, to the best of my knowledge. But I'm standing.
Well, you can have the mark. Actually, only one man made it up. The composer Roy Newsom. He made up the trio. I thought I'd just allow myself a small
bit of levity.
A small bit of levity, a minuscule funny. Yeah. You can have the mark. There were 3 of them. Why not? Yes. I was listening the other day to somebody singing, "Life is just a bowl of cherries," and I was struck once again by that line, "Don't take it serious, life's too mysterious." And I thought it ought really to read, "Don't take it seriously, life's too mysteriously," because grammar and syntax and things like that are not always at their strongest when popular music is concerned. So, John, I wondered, have you, to start us off, an example of, I don't know, it might be from a translation or from some song or other you know, in which there's a grammar problems, grammar defied, syntax set on its head?
Well, perhaps rather the other way. In Traviata, Germont Père, in the Sadler's Wells version, as was, he always used to say, start of an aria saying, "I have a son, a daughter too." Well, it's all right if you see it in print, because I have a son, comma, a daughter too. But it's very difficult, impossible to put that across. Was that the sort of thing you had in mind?
Yes, that would do nicely. Yeah.
But I mean, I came across the most marvellous mistranslation the other day. I was looking at my score, very old score I've got of the Verdi Requiem, printed in this country. And that wonderful moment in the Verdi Requiem, the tuba mirum, most marvellous crescendo practically of all times. And then the chorus comes in with tuba mirum surgens sonum or something. And the English translation is, "Hark, the trumpet sounds appalling."
Frank, grammar, syntax, anything you've thought of?
Hansard is very good on translation. You know, in the House of Commons they say, "Sit down, you silly old..." In Hansard it appears as cries of "oh, oh." No, the only one I can think of in the limited time available is you is, or is you ain't, my baby.
Very, very good example, yes, lovely one. Ian, have you thought of something?
Well, what John was saying is very much in my line, because of the English translations of some of the operatic arias that one has sung, which explains why some of them one has never sung in English. And there's one I've been noting it down a bit. I've been waiting. From Verdi's opera Ernani, a famous bass aria which is called Infelice, or Unhappy One. And this is an old man who has suddenly realized that the young girl whom he thought he was going to marry has betrayed him already. In fact, she hasn't, but it looks like that. He's terribly sad, and he's sort of, in a way, he's saying that an old heart should not have had these ambitions to marry this young girl. But the English, for one of the impassioned bits of this aria, goes... Winter lords it in this my bosom, far congealing to the core, far congealing unto the core, far congealing unto the core, winter lords it in my bosom, etc.
Dennis, you're not thinking of an aria from Ernani.
No.
Oh, go on. What have you come up with?
Actually, nobody, I don't think, will remember a song called Is I in Love I Is, Be I in Love I Be. Well, there's Ain't We Got Fun, Me and My Shadow, which is also incorrect. Right. Yeah. But the one that obeys your adverbial solecism, which I can think of, is in the lyric of a song called Deep Purple, which goes, in the still of the night, once again I hold you tight. Oh, yeah. Now, which actually sounds like he's holding her because she's smashed out of her mind. But if you do put the adverb in order to get the rhyme right, you make him out somewhat of a better performer than he was, because then it has to go, in the still of the nightly, once again I hold you tightly.
On to the next round. Let's make an opera, or rather let's examine one. John, the question for you is which opera? It begins like this, and it ends like this.
Ian looks as if he knows it.
Yes.
It looks as if he thinks it's the Barber of Seville.
Yes, and he's right. And he knows it partly because he knows it and partly because he's been in it, haven't you, Ian? Yes. By Rossini, you were about to say. You got a mark. Frank, this is from Act 2, Scene 3, part of an arietta. Odd word, arietta.
L'aria dice Giannina, ma io dico Rosina.
Frank, would you care to have a stab at how that word came into being, arietta?
Well, it was one of the early Christian saints, wasn't it? It was Saint Edith, who was playing the flute in the Colosseum at Rome. And there was this Cockney lion, Harry, who was introduced into the arena, and he leapt the balustrade and consumed the Edith, the Roman flautist, and she died. Arietta.
Buried alive.
I suspect it could be a small feminine aria.
Yes, a small, diminutive, short, simple aria. Either way, you get a mark. Ian, you've appeared in The Barber, as we've established. Which character was that singing just then, and which song was he recalling, or rather, whose song was he recalling?
Oh, well, it's a character, is Dr. Bartolo,
yes.
the crusty old guardian of the young girl. It's a part that I played a time or two. Not the young girl, Dr. Bartolo.
Well, this is that's the easy bit. This is the harder bit, isn't it?
Well, the thing is that the bit of recitative that you played just now is Dr. Bartolo saying that he's going to sing this aria, which is dedicated to Giannina, but he always says that it's to Rosina, and she's terribly bored because she doesn't want to have an aria sung to her by her old guardian. But he says that it was sung by a famous singer of the past, yes, called Caffariello.
Caffariello, yes, how well he used to do it, he says. That's right, and that gets you your mark. Thank you. Dennis, in Act 1, Scene 1 of Rossini's opera, there's a heavy plug for another opera written by another composer altogether. How did that come about, do you think? Repeated plug for an opera by someone else.
Well, I can only presume, you see, that in those days trailers hadn't been invented, and the only way they could announce what the equivalent of sort of coming to this theatre all next week was to insert it in the middle of the production that was on that week. Book your seats now. They used to sing, book your seats now.
That is actually right. Yes, that is the correct answer. Insofar as it gets you.
Wait a minute. I've just got a message from
what does it say?
Ian. It says Figaro here, Figaro there, Figaro, Figaro, which is obviously utterly irrelevant to what you're talking, because it's an advertisement for Paris newspaper, this, and we were talking about operas, weren't we?
Nevertheless, you're right.
Yes.
Let's just hear it. This is how it goes, the bit I had in mind.
Figaro, 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 Figaro. Ahimè, che furia.
Yes, that's it. On to the next round. 2 marks at stake here. John, you first. How far are you from the nearest hopper? Guess a distance, quick.
25.
What?
You gave
25
the
what?
answer. Let's guess.
It won't do anyway. You're about 10 feet, I think, from a hopper. There's plenty here. A hopper is the part of a keyboard instrument that throws the hammerhead against the string. It goes gedonging. Also called a grasshopper or a sticker. Frank, I'm going to play you on the piano a piece of very modern music, and after I've played it, I want you to tell me what it's called.
You played it wrong.
Yes. It was an interesting misplaying in the second bar there, which
I missed the con moto, actually. I just want the title.
Title?
What would you call it?
Mood music. I'd call it Underground Chaos.
Actually, I wrote it myself, and it's called Unutterable Rubbish.
Well, you said it.
I missed out the bit where you pluck the strings with your nose. I couldn't get that bit in, actually. But, thank you. You've got 2 marks. 2 marks. Ian, have I ever played in your hearing a homophone?
A homophone. Well, homo means like, and phone means...
What does phone mean?
Phone. It's the same note, but it's 2 different ways of describing it.
For instance, and, which is D sharp and E flat. That's a homophone. And I've played many, and you get your marks. Yes, with bells on. Very good. Dennis, some pianos have just 2 pedals, some have 3. What is the 3rd pedal for?
Dipping the headlights.
If you play a chord like that, and then depress the sustaining pedal, the middle pedal, it holds that chord while you can play staccato notes elsewhere.
Oh, yes.
Marks for everybody, I should think, there. Let's have some singing to round things off. John, Umberto Giordano wasn't exactly one of the leading master composers, but his opera Fedora gave Caruso a rewarding part. You've got it, I think, coming up. Amor ti vieta. Can I lead you in?
Yes.
Right.
You know, that's such a short little lollipop.
You want to do it again?
No. I used to practice for months and I could never get through the damn thing. But now I don't practice for months.
Yes, I know.
Ecco.
Yes. Short, but taxing, you might say.
I'm not saying it was good, but I got to the end.
My boy isn't just an ugly face.
Ah, Frankie.
He's
Frank,
there with it.
Your turn. There seem to be various versions of When Johnny Comes Marching Home Again. I wonder if you could saw me off a yard or 2 of one of them.
Yes, carve a little bit off the top for me, carve a little bit off the top for me, slice me off a yard or two, I'll tell you when to stop. All I want is a little bit off the top.
Denis, in a word or two, or in a few lines of a song, what is it that you like about the South?
Well, have you heard of a place called Do What Diddy? Ain't no town, ain't no city, it's just awful small and awful pretty, and that's what I like about the South. Here come old Bob with all the news, got the buck-spec coat and the buttoned shoes, but he's all behind with his union dues, and that's what I like about the South. Semi-50 PDQ. I never know what that bit means.
Have we started yet?
No. It's like John, it wasn't very good. I got through to the end. Actually, that's like life, isn't it?
It is. Undeniably true, yes. Ian, can I invite you, please, to invite us to come to the fair? In G.
In G,
yes,
certainly.
in G.
The sun is a-shining to welcome the day. Hey ho, come to the fair. The folk are all singing so merry and gay. Hey ho, come to the fair. Oh, the stalls on the green are as fine as can be, with trinkets and tokens so pretty to see. Come then, maidens and men, to the fair in the pride of the morning. So deck yourselves out in your finest array, with a hey-ho, come to the fair. Maidens and men, come to the fair in the morning. Hey-ho, come to the
I'm sorry to have to tell you, maidens and men, that that's the end of our show. A victory for Ian Wallace and Denis Norden. Goodbye.
Taking part in My Music were John Amos, Frank Muir, Ian Wallace and Denis Norden. The chairman was Steve Race. The questions were compiled by Steve Race, and the programme was produced by Tony Schreier. We present My Music, a musical panel game devised by Edward J. Mason and Tony Schreier. And here to introduce the teams is Steve Race.
Thank you. Thank you. Here we are at the Commonwealth Institute in Kensington, London, with My Music. My colleagues in the two competing teams being John Amos and Frank Muir versus Ian Wallace and Denis Norden. John, you start us off, if you will. Can you tell me the name and the nationality of the man who composed this Romanian Rhapsody?
I think he was the greatest musician I've ever met in my life.
Oh, you met
Taking
him?
them all in all. George Enescu.
Yes, teacher of Menuhin.
Teacher of Menuhin, wonderful violinist himself, a marvellous conductor, and a composer perhaps not quite so good. If I may drop a name, Arthur Rubinstein told me a lovely story. Enescu was living in his flat in Paris. There was a knock at the door, and a man said, "I wonder if you remember me, George." He said, "Yes, of course, my old friend and benefactor from Romania. You did me a marvellous favour when I was a young man." "Good," he said, "because I want you to do me a favour. I have a son. He plays the violin. Will you teach him?" "Well, I'm busy, but I will." So he taught him. He was terrible. After 3 years, knock at the door. George, I'm disappointed. I know it is the custom in Paris when a pupil gets to a certain state, the master puts on a recital for him. A little recital and a small. He's not good enough. No, he's not quite ready for him. But, George, his aunts say he is wonderful. All right, I'll put a recital on. So he takes the Salle Gavard in Paris, and they put on a recital, and the bills are out. Fortnight later, knock, knock, knock at the door. George, nobody's bought any tickets for my son's recital. Ah, well, you see, overcrowded profession, unknown name. George, there is one thing that would fill the hall, if you would play the piano for him. But, he said, you know, I'm a violinist, I'm a conductor, I'm a composer, I'm not really a pianist, I do play the piano. But didn't you play for the violinist Isai 2 years ago? All right, I'll put my name on the bill. Puts his name on the bill, sold out. Just going on to play, when Ionesco says, now, who's going to turn the pages for me? I need somebody to turn the pages. Can you do it? Man said, I'm sorry, I haven't got my glasses with me this evening. What about your colleague? Sorry, he doesn't read music. Look, I've got to have a page turner. Go out into the audience and find one. So they go out into the audience, and the first person they see is the great pianist Alfred Cortot. Maître, we have a problem. Do you have a pupil here who could turn the pages? Looks around the audience and says, no, I'm sorry, I don't. But look, he says, I'm an old friend of Ionesco's, I'll come and turn the pages for him. So he does. Figaro, the paper, 2 days later says, a very curious recital took place 2 days ago. The man who was playing the piano should have been playing the violin. The man who was turning the pages should have been playing the piano. And maybe the personage playing the violin could have turned the pages.
Super story. Lovely. Ionesco and the nationality?
Romanian.
Romanian, yes. Ionesco was teacher of Menuhin. Frank, for you, a Paul Robeson record.
3 little children, lying in bed. 2 was sick and the other most dead. Sent for the doctor said.
Frank, what was the doctor's advice?
Well, my famed Liszt said to me, as Radio Liszt. He said to me, feed the little children with shortening bread.
Feed them children on shortening bread.
Well,
yes, that's right. That's
give
right.
or take a syllable.
That's right, yes. I still smile to myself when I recall a letter that a lady wrote to me from South Africa. Her very small son kept asking to hear the song about a lion in bed. And they finally traced it down. 3 little children, a lion in bed. Ian, your turn. Which emperor did a certain composer have in mind when he called this Beethoven's Emperor Concerto?
Well, whoever was playing that shouldn't have been turning the pages anyway.
It was Rubinstein.
Sometimes it's been said that he named it after Napoleon, but in fact he certainly didn't do that, and he didn't name it himself.
That's the point, yes.
I've always understood that it was his publisher, Mr. Kramer, who called it an emperor among concertos. And therefore got its name in that way. It certainly was nothing to do with Napoleon, because Beethoven was once at the wrong end of Napoleon's cannons in some town or other where the French army was shelling, and he was very, very angry with Napoleon. Yes. Would have never, by the slightest possible stretch of imagination, named it after.
No, you've survived my trap question, haven't you? Trap.
Oh, yes,
John.
It could have been yes.
It was a bit of a trap.
Knowing you, Steve, I knew wouldn't know.
Anyway, the Emperor Concerto was actually dedicated to the Archduke Rudolph. Dennis, I'm going to play you an excerpt from a recording of the Nutcracker Suite. Bearing your musical knowledge in mind, I want from you, please, the name of the composer and the name of the arranger. Listen.
Well, I don't know if you remember a band called Les Brown and his Band of Renown.
Les Brown.
Les Brown and his Band of Renown. Well, they recorded a song called Everybody's Making Money But Tchaikovsky. A vocalist, Betty Bonney, on it. And so that was Tchaikovsky, and I recognise the absolute virtuoso playing of the Swanee whistle must have been Spike Jones.
Yes, Spike Jones' arrangement. It could have been worse. It could have been arranged by Ken Russell, couldn't it?
Yeah.
I thought it might have been one of Leopold Stokowski's rather more colourful arrangements.
Yes, that crossed my mind.
Veering that way sometimes.
Well, it didn't cross it, actually. It sort of peeped in.
Now for some musical instruments, singly or in groups. John, can you give me an example of a broken consort?
Yes. Supposing you had 3 tubas and an ocarina.
Yes. Yeah.
That would be a pretty well broken down consort.
Yes, it would, because you'd have a consort of, what was it you said, tubas.
Well, if you had
broken by
4 tubas or 4 ocarinas, you'd have an unbroken consort.
Yes, the exception to a whole consort, like all strings are all wind instruments. Frank, in the year 1454, there was a banquet.
Yes, I remember.
Now, pay attention, it's a long question, this. There was a banquet at Lille in which 28 musicians appeared inside a huge castle made of pastry. One wonders which tune they were playing, and I thought you might perhaps be able to make a shot at which tune they were playing. 28 musicians in a pastry castle. What were they doing?
If they were pastries, if they were in an egg, it would be Melody in Earth. I would have thought the flower song from Carmen.
How about Blackbirds?
No, not Blackbirds.
Blackbirds.
One rather worries about the chap in whose honour this was done.
Yes.
Because normally when things are baked into a cake, when human beings are baked into a cake, they emerge as sort of nude chorus girls. And this poor king sitting there with expecting nude chorus girls, and the pastry breaks away, and there's 28 elderly musicians.
I thought, yeah.
Once again, I seem to get that old filling.
Ian, there's a nice musical moment in Chaucer's Canterbury Tales where the scholar Nicholas describes how the lady lovesome of hue and hide set her down by his bedside. She laid a psalter upon her knee, and thereon she played full lovesomely. What would we now call a psalter?
Yes. First it sounded a bit like... One night she came to my bedside when I lay fast asleep. She laid it on her knee.
Yes, that's right.
Can't be a piano.
It sounds like it was nothing she blew then. She didn't blow.
She would pluck it, I should think,
pluck it.
or strum it even.
Well, a sort of mini harp.
Yes, sort of. If Psalter was spelt with a PS on the front, you can probably get the derivation.
Altar.
Psaltery, yes, or conceivably the dulcimer.
I've never been absolutely sure what a psalter was, to be honest.
Yes, that's right. Psaltery being plucked and a dulcimer struck. Derived from it too is the zither, and even you might say the harpsichord.
The sitar is something similar, isn't it, or is it not?
Well, it's a long way away, isn't it?
You can get the baby sitar, which is a...
Dennis, can you give me an example of a bass racket?
Well, the only one that occurs to me was in the days of variety when dance bands used to tour. They very often used to end up in digs where no girls were allowed in the rooms. Now, I am assured that, or was assured, that one of the ways to smuggle them up was in a double bass case. Because apparently in a double bass case you can store anything up to size 32 bus. And that was one of the best bass rackets that I knew. What is it? Did you know? No. You didn't even know what psalter was, did you?
No. I would just think it was something you somebody like me would play tennis with.
You've reminded me, Dennis, that just
That's right. It's Paul Robeson's tennis.
Or overcharging for singing the bottom line in The Messiah.
Actually, bass racket. Bass racket is a sort of thick recorder in appearance. It's like a sort of kaleidoscope fed by a thin blowing tube, if you know what I mean by that. I'm going to turn now to my mighty pre-electric Wurlitzer here and play a piano medley, one for John and Frank and the other medley for Ian and Dennis. There's 6 tunes, they go by rather quickly, and a chance to pick up 6 marks. So here's, for John and Frank, my first medley. I wonder how you got on, John, Frank. 6.
What was that first one again? Yes. At first I thought it was an enigma.
It is a bit.
I'm sure it is.
Yes, it's from the
Enigma Variation?
Enigma Variations by Elgar. Yes, that's 1 mark. The next one.
Invitation to the Dance.
Yes, by Weber. Ben Kane.
A Pesce dance.
Yes, that's right.
It's a French piece.
That is known as the dance for a Pesce dance. Yes. Or,
thank you very much.
Do you know, happen to know, John, who did write it or who used it in a semi-classical piece or operetta?
That piece? No.
Offenbach.
I was going to say that.
Le Roi Carotte. The Carroty King. You got that. 3 more, please. I play.
What are you doing with nothing from the audience at all? You don't get it. Is that one that goes?
No, it's the one that goes da da dee da da dee dee. Can't hang about.
That's not Elgar again, is it?
No, Schön Rosmarin by Chrysler.
Oh yes.
2 more, please.
Waldteufel. Well, I mean, it's España.
Yes.
Then I think Waldteufel.
Well, yes, that's why I was stalling a bit. Chabrier is España, but it also appears in that, what's it called, that long word by Waldteufel? Estudiantina, yes, I shall give you that mark. It's certainly from España, and you've got that. And then finally, chop.
It's a Turkish march.
Or, well,
by Mozart.
Not so much a march, more of a sort of rondo. 5 out of 6. 5 out of 6. And a second medley, this time for Ian and Dennis. How did we fare?
Well, the first one is if you go in, you're sure to win.
Yes, etc. It comes from
Iolanthe,
yes. Then came.
I give my heart just to one man loving as only a woman can.
Yes, from the
Du Barry.
Du Barry, yes, that's right. Yes. 4 more. if you get them.
Love is all, love is all, love is all, love is all,
love is all, love is all, love is all.
Then you did a very, very crafty switch. You played practically nothing of either one, but I think it was Good Night, Irene, and Hi Lily, Hi Lily.
Hi Lily, hi Low. Yes,
well
good.
done.
Yeah, do that bit again, because that was very smart.
Oh, kind of it was. What did I do?
Yeah, it's hardly right, that one.
Devilish. And the last one?
I've got, well, it's either Casey would dance or and the band played on.
The band played on, a Strawberry Blonde song. 6 out of 6. Right, we press on. Someone reviewing a new opera encyclopedia said how good it was, but then they added, not even so ingenious a contributor as Julian Button could cram the plot of Il Trovatore into 6 lines. And that set me wondering how you would get on with doing very, very condensed opera plots, gentlemen, in a limited amount of time. In fact, in 6 seconds, I thought. You'll hear first some music from the opera or show concerned while you assemble your thoughts. And then, when the music cuts off, in you come. After 6 seconds, a cymbal crash will cut you off. So while the music's playing, think about the plot and then deliver it in 6 seconds. John, you first. The plot of Der Freischütz in 6 seconds from when the music stops.
Max gets the bullet.
Why not? Yes, you beat our symbolist. Yes, mark to you. Frank, a bit of music introducing Kiss Me Kate, and then the plot from you in 6 seconds.
A troop of strolling players are we.
Boy meets shrew, boy loses shrew. Due to friends, boy, triumph, hope of experience, rejoin shrew.
We give him a mark, I think, don't you? Yes, very nearly done, yes. I thought you might just say the Taming of the Shrew. Fair enough. Ian, 10 seconds of pirate pouring, and then the plot, please, of The Pirates of Penzance. Go.
25 daughters of fertile Major General get involved with pirates who turn out to be members of the House of Lords.
You hardly missed out so much as a bit of subplot. That was.
Well, I never managed to mention the police.
No, that's true. Dennis, with 6 seconds to go, as the others did, I work it out that you have just under a second to explain each bride and each brother in 7 Brides for 7 Brothers.
Go and court, oh, it sets your senses in a whirl. Go and court, duding up to go and see a girl.
Inspired by legend of Sabine women, kidnapped girls, all live happily ever after. Bless your beautiful hide. No,
Whatever happened to Lonesome Polecat?
I know.
Couldn't get it in. You all did very well. Fine. In the final round this week, we have 4 songs, all of them about girls. John, a song about a milkmaid.
Yes. I should just like to point out for the cognoscenti, this is the only folk song I know where the person singing the song gets so struck by emotion he goes into another key altogether.
Really?
Do your best, lad.
Dennis has done that song before now.
You're stealing my best trick.
It was early one fine summer's morning when the birds sat and sung on each bough. I heard a young damsel thus singing, thereon as she sat milking her cow. She sang with a voice so melodiously that I could scarce bear to go, for my heart it was smothered with sorrow by that pretty girl milking her cow.
charmant. Very nice. Frank, Miss Worthington is considering a stage career. Have you any advice for her mother?
Excuse me.
Yes, certainly. Have a quick sip. Shall I give you a chord of E flat?
I'm not quite sure of the lyrics, actually. I'm trying to write them out. Don't put your daughter on the stage, Mrs. Worthington. Don't put your daughter on the stage. She's a bit of an ugly duckling, you must honestly confess, and the width of her seat would surely defeat her chances of success. It's a loud voice, and though it's not exactly flat, she'll need a little more than that to earn a living wage. On my knees, Mrs. Worthington, please, Mrs. Worthington, don't put your daughter on the stage.
As in so many of those Noel Coward songs, the tune that goes on underneath that is perfectly lovely. Can I just play you a little bit of the tune that, you know...
Feel free.
May I do that? You know, it goes... Sweet, isn't it? Yeah. How nice that this... He did the same with a song called Chase Me Charlie, which is just a silly song about cats, but it's got a lovely little tune behind it.
Next week, you play, and I'll just watch.
Much better. And then give you the marks, yes. Dennis, Daddy bought her piano for 10 cents on the dollar.
Yeah.
And...
Are you going to come in on this? Are you?
Yes.
You're not going to play an entirely different tune underneath.
Not with you, Dennis.
Where are you? I'm wearing second-hand hats, second-hand clothes. That's why they call me second-hand Rose. Even our piano in the parlor, Father got for 10 cents on the dollar. Second-hand pearls, I'm wearing second-hand curls. I never get a single thing that's new. Even Jake the plumber, he's the man I adore, had the nerve to tell me he's been married before. Everyone knows I'm just a second-hand rose from 2nd Avenue. I think I lost £3.
Yes. Our most successful partnership.
I think so, yeah. Stick with me, Steve.
Ian,
wearing mink suspenders.
Ian, your girlfriend comes from Argyll, and she's Bonnie.
And she's in E flat, is she?
She is.
I have heard the mavis singing his love song to the moon. I have seen the dewdrop clinging to the rose just newly born. But a sweeter sound hath cheered me at the evening's gentle close, and I've seen an eye still brighter than the dewdrop on the rose. 'Twas thy voice, my gentle Mary, and thine artless winning smile that has made this world an Eden. Bonnie Mary,
nice to have you with us for this edition of My Music. You might just care to know that it's a victory, by 1 mark actually, for John Amos and Frank Muir. Good night.
Taking part in My Music were John Amos, Frank Muir, Ian Wallace and Denis Norden. The chairman was Steve Race. The questions were compiled by Steve Race and the programme was produced by Tony Schreier.